Awesome.
30 minutes late, but we're still showing up.
Yes. We're here for it.
This is awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so we got that figured out and we're now live on Facebook. Welcome everybody to the live of this chat with Kelsey, who is the writer and author of, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find our photos here. I mean, our live streaming here. There we go. Now I can see you. Kelsey is a friend of mine who I met a very long time ago, not too long because we're not too old yet, but I met a while back, and at the wall, which was a prayer room that we were building at Every Home for Christ in Colorado Springs. If you do not know who I am, I'm Rachel. This is my account. This live was giving us a good fight, a good run for our money. So we're not on YouTube right now. We're on Facebook Live, but I will be posting it there after this. So sorry about that for those of you who went over to YouTube and now you're coming back here. Kelsey has written a book called Waiting with God. I always forget the tagline. You give me the tagline.
The tagline is experiencing the beauty of singleness.
Yes, but in my mind, I'm reading it all about waiting on God because that is the premise and what the bulk of the book is in my heart. So it is good whether you're single or not. Okay, so I just wanted to introduce Kelsey as the author of that book, but also as a friend of mine and somebody who is super encouraging. She has words of encouragement every time I talk with her. She is a singer and a songwriter. She has a lot of gifts under her belt, and I just want to bring the message of hope that she has to give to all of you. So welcome, Kelsey. Thank you for having this interview with me.
Yeah, Rachel, I'm so excited and just honored. And I know when you asked me to even just share and speak a little bit, honestly, it was a little nerve-wracking because I just shared, like, speaking is not my comfort zone. It's definitely out of my comfort zone. People ask me about speaking engagements. I'm like, hey, not my priority. Like, I wrote the book because I like to write. Like, that's my comfort zone. But just even chatting with you a little bit about that, like, this is the time for us to get outside of our comfort zone. And I feel like the Lord is really tugging on a lot of people's hearts in a lot of new ways to be okay stepping out and stepping out even when it's new, when it's uncomfortable, and just taking the risk. So I'm just honored that we can even just chat on here and just encourage one another. I'm
just bringing up my Facebook on my phone so that I can see if anyone is interacting with us, cool. If they have anything to say, and we can say hi to them. But
awesome.
I just want to get into, someone is asking me. Okay, let me just answer that person.
And honestly, I just want to share, Rachel, when I was thinking about chatting with you tonight, and I was like, okay, like, who might listen, who might show up? And I just felt the Lord say, like, remember that I will show up.
Yes.
And it's a reminder of I'm here. And it's, the moment I feel like, because it's such a bigger platform, the bigger platforms, like, that's where it's at. We want followers and the likes, and like, that's the driving force. The moment that becomes the driving force is who's showing up,
right?
And if it's not about God, it really loses the impact and the power behind what we're even coming to share. And so I just was stirred in remembering the reality of the audience of one. And that's something that Rachel and I just grew to love, in a little prayer room where we were singing to Jesus. And sometimes nobody showed up to the room we were singing in. And it really was like God showed up. And that's what mattered, is that he was there, and we knew that that's what it was all about. So even tonight, I was just like, the kindness of God to remind my heart that he's showing up and he's here, and he marks the conversations that we have that are about him. And for, you know
So
what I mean,
good.
whoever it is that's listening now or would maybe listen in the future, to remind them that it is about the Lord, and when he shows up, that's where the power and anointing and just authority comes from. So we just want to honor God tonight, that he is in the midst of us. So
Amen,
yeah.
Kelsey. This is actually the vision that I had for these I guess I'm going to call them interviews. The vision that I have for this is that we would be stirring up hope in people, that people would have the stories of hope being declared. And so, you know, I did initially ask you on here to talk about your book, because your book is declaring a hope to a people group, specifically the singles, that is super necessary, especially given what we just came out of 2020. I think that it's super relevant to this time frame, and also that your book does not just be like, hey, it's good, it's okay to be single. It's like, yeah, actually there is something that you can be doing in the midst of this longing that you're having. And I love that in your book you're also at the end of each segment or chapter, you have the prayer reflection. You give words of prayer to say to help our hearts. And like you mentioned before, we started out in the prayer room with each other. Those were glorious times. And that's something that I'm like, it is something that brings hope when you actually understand that there is someone on your side at all times. Mm-hmm. They're always present, never, you're never without him. Jesus is always available at any moment, anytime. You don't have to go calling him and making an appointment, you know. Right. Anyways, I just want to bring that up because at the end of each chapter, that part to me spoke to me as well, that it's like, don't just read this and, you know, have a little moment of feel good, but actually activate your faith and let's do something with it. Do something with the things I've just talked about. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have anything to share in that regards of just maybe tell us a little bit more. First, tell us a little bit more about the background of your life. Like who is Kelsey? And maybe even how did you get to this place of writing the book? Mm-hmm. Like if you can mm-hmm. say like a little testimony about the path or something like that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally. Okay. Well, I'm 37. I am still single and just in that season of waiting, and I have, you know, my glory moments and it's the ebbs and flows. Sometimes I'm like, this is the best thing ever. And then I have moments where I'm like, okay, I'm just feeling the ache, feeling the longing a little bit more. So currently that's my, you know, my status, but kind of just my background. Grew up knowing God and loving God. My mom passed away when I was 12. But I always knew that God was there. So even though she left, that was kind of a big marker for me of knowing, although she was gone, like God was still with me. So I kind of even have a little bit of that in my mix of my heartbeat behind the book. Is I've got some loss there. And actually my dad passed away almost 3 years ago. So that is also in the mix and a really big thrust of why I ended up writing the book. So I did ministry, full-time ministry for about 7 years. And I was working a lot with young adults. I was working with girls and mentoring them, girls that were my age, girls that were, you know, 10 years younger than I was. And the topic of marriage and singleness, dating, all of that was constantly coming up. And whether it was my experiences or just being there to listen to others, I always had a heart for just encouraging singles, both men and women, actually, even just my brothers, where they were at, encouraging them to along the way, in regards to relationships. And so I would kind of think of funny stories, things that would happen to me, encouraging stories, times where the Lord just ministered to my heart in the season of singleness. And so I would just kind of write those down, or log them in my memory. And so probably for about 6-7 years, I was almost doing a storyline in my heart. So that's a big part of it as well. But after my dad passed away, it really hit me that we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So what are we going to do with our today? And what are we going to do with our promises and our dreams? And are we going to wait and just keep waiting, until what? If we just keep waiting until we feel like we've arrived, I feel like a lot of things we're just not going to start. And so that was a big deal for me, is to know I wanted to, leave something behind and leave a legacy. And so that was a big part of my desire to write the book and just go for it and finish it, and release it. And yeah, so that's a big part of it. And I think even in the midst of that, just to encourage others that would listen or that are listening right now, a big part of what was, I felt like I had to wait, like I mentioned, until I arrived. I had to wait, well, maybe, when I get a bigger following, when I have more followers, a bigger platform,
Right.
when I, maybe after I've submitted some different writings and some different avenues, then I'll be able to write a book. But there was just something in me that was like, okay, I'm going to push past my fears, push past my insecurities of, what if it's horrible? What if nobody, reads my book? And just where I was like, you know what, this is going to be for me and the Lord, and being obedient to that and just following that and taking the risk there. So just to encourage people that are listening to this, it's about waiting. Obviously this is about waiting, and what do we do with the waiting? But when he gives the green light and he says, go, that even when it's uncomfortable and it's scary, that we would be the ones that would, just dare to believe God and take the big risks. So
yeah, let's just hang out there, because I know that we start with a topic, but I'm going to let the Lord lead us, and we're going to let the Lord lead us, because this is really about his story. And in saying that, I just want to bring up the fact that his story is our story. Like, we are his story. So something I've been talking a lot about on my socials is this very thing, the activation of your dreams. Okay, I'm not going to get weird. I'm not going to get weird, but the Lord is so on this, and he's on this. And this is another thing, is that immediately when I thought I'm going to start interviewing people to declare hope out there into the interwebs, where I feel like hope is really deferred. It's been deferred in such a massive way over the last year, that it's like, okay, the Lord turned this on. This is a message that needs to go out. And part of that is what you're just talking about there. Okay. The big dreams, the thoughts that you're having, the things that, it's actually not waiting. Okay. When we're shutting our dreams down because we don't believe that they can happen. It is a faith and a belief issue. And that stuff relies upon putting our hope in him, because what you said about just about leaving the legacy and going, you know what, your pain and your loss caused you to rethink and reevaluate what was worth the cost, like what the cost of doing the things were and what your mind and your heart were really saying. And you were really actually, I don't know, you can tell me if this is right or not, but it sounds to me that there was actually not a real reason not to activate these dreams. It was actually fear, a real reason, meaning fear, but fear and insecurity. And I think that a lot of people can relate to that, even in the area of believing for their person that God has for them. And the reason I bring that up is because I'm going to tell a story about when I was single.
Yes.
Because I thought of this earlier. I thought, you know, what was it like when I was single? I learned a lot of lessons about who God is and his character and about my trust in him. Mm-hmm. And one of the things is that I had loved a guy for a very long time and pursued him for a very long time because he had given me the hope in how he treated me that I could actually ask God for what I want and it could actually come forth. But I had my focus on this person because this person brought about that he sparked that dream again in me because he was like so kind to me. And there was just some elements about how he treated me that made me go, actually, my list that I made for the Lord, my list was not too great. My expectations for my husband, the person that I see I want, a godly man, a man who is going to seek the Lord first, who doesn't need me to tell him, you know, pursue me, but actually is pursuing me and asks the Lord, who is my father, for me. Okay. I did not learn this through no pain and no suffering and no heartache. I learned this because I was grasping at the dream that I had that I did not trust that God would give me. I didn't believe, and this isn't something I understood until I had gone through the pain and God had to reveal it to me. So this stuff that we're talking about has to be revealed through the spirit of revelation, through the Holy Spirit living in you and your conversations with God. If you're not having conversations with God, you can't know the hope that there is. And you cannot even understand where you are not believing. And so in this story, I had this guy that I was wanting and loving, and I thought, he's the one for me, you know, God, give me this guy, you know. And one day I remember that I was having one of those cries where it's like, why am I the only one? That's like, you know, you're not the only one. There's like thousands of people in this situation. And I'm going, Lord, why doesn't he love me? You know, like, why doesn't he love me? Why isn't this working? Why, you know, why can't we be together? And I felt the Lord say to me, he said to me, I'm trustworthy with your heart. And I was like, oh, like I didn't know that I wasn't trusting him with my heart, that I didn't actually believe that he wanted the best things for me. And in those moments, it took 5 more years for me to actually work that out with the Lord, where every time I got into this place where I was feeling sad or that I was suffering or that, you know, it's not okay to long for marriage. Like, this is another issue that was in my heart and with me, because I felt like everyone around me was telling me that it was not okay for me to even want that I had to give that up in order for God to give it to me. I want to say that's not true. Yeah. I'm sorry. Unpopular opinion, but that's a lie. You don't give it up.
Yeah.
You actually entrust it. Okay. It isn't a shut off the hope, kill that desire and that dream. It's, I trust you with my heart. You're trustworthy, and I know that you are, And I give that dream back into your hands because I know that you know better. I know that you're my good father. I know that you have my best interest in mind. I know that you desire the best for me. And it's when you realize that then you live in a little bit more freedom of walking that out with more grace. It isn't that there's no pain or that you don't go back into that mode. And I'm not going to say that it's going to show up like that once you get to this place where you're actually working it through, knowing that it's not about that love that you want. It's about the trust that you have in the one who can give it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I don't know if you have anything to add to that or.
Yeah, I feel like that's just a story of so many. And I know I've been there too, where it feels like striving, and was even just talking with some girlfriends recently. Like, I feel like, we're awesome, beautiful women, love the
You
Lord.
are.
So I think there's this thing where it's like, we could actually be married if we wanted to, or if we were striving,
Right.
and we could, it's this like, I can get things done. I can do things. I do what I want, kind of mentality that you can actually bring into things like dating or marriage or a business, endeavor, that you can be like, well, I'm going to go my way and I'm going to do my thing, and surely God will be in it. But it's just, we want to have the fear of the Lord at the same time. Like, if God's not in it, then I don't want it. If he's not breathing on it, then I don't want to put my hands to it or my heart to it. Or, we want things that, whether it's whatever we're waiting for, we want to do that in partnership with the Lord, and not, by our own strength, because in that place, there's not lasting fruit, and it's not coming from a place of rest and abundance and things of the Spirit. And that's really what is lasting. It's what is life-giving. So I think that is a big thing to remember for singles, for married women, for men, wanting a new job, wanting to provide, all the different things. Like, it's in partnership with the Lord. And I think that's it, is hope. Our hope is in God. We're waiting with God. And I totally agree with you. Like, it's okay to believe God for big things. And my heart is to, to encourage myself or other people to actually get your hopes up. And we can be hopeful and we can be expectant and excited, but the moment our expectation is in a circumstance turning out the way we want it to, or a desire fulfilled, that's where, we can get swept away with disillusionment and bitterness and things not looking like we thought they would, but when our hope is in God, that's where we can find our rest and know that he's working things out. He is, like you said, he'll give good gifts. He gives good gifts. It's who he is. So yeah, just remaining in him.
I'm just gonna just go into your book a little bit. I have it here on Kindle. And by the way, those of you who are watching live, if there are any persons watching live and you comment on this live video here, you're going to be entered to win a copy of Kelsey's book. And that will be decided later tonight after this, and I will announce it tomorrow. It's Waiting with God. And I just like to get the words exactly right. What is the second part of it?
Experiencing the beauty of singleness.
Waiting with God, experiencing the beauty of singleness. And I love how you also say that this isn't about marriage. Marriage isn't the goal, but Jesus is the goal. Yeah. Do you say that in here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure I read that.
Yeah, that he's the focus, when it becomes like, once I have arrived at whatever the hope that it is that you're waiting for, if that is your goal and not God, then it kind of, I don't know, it's the excitement, the thrill, the richness isn't really lasting. And as far as making sure he's our first priority in life and what we're running after, everything else gets to be a gift and a blessing.
Right. And so what I was mentioning before, which is the little, you call it heart check and prayer pause. And I really love those parts, because you can gain knowledge, but you can easily skip the part of actually implementing and activating that faith. And so this is an important aspect, in my opinion, of your book, is that it sort of reads like a book with a partial devotional, almost like, you know, because it's an encouragement to actually look at what we've been talking about and then return that to the Lord. And I really love that aspect of it. For me, that is like, again, a very big part of the process to freedom. And I'm going to call it freedom, because you don't need to get free from the hope or the dream, but you need to get free from the control that you want to have over it. And so this is, again, it's a handing over of the control, because you know of the safety of the one you're handing it to. And you know that the heart of the Lord for you is that you would have hope and a future. Hope and a future. So I just, again, want to encourage you to grab Kelsey's book and to go through it, even if you're not single, even if you're not a woman. Like she said, this is going to be good for a lot of arenas of life, because this is really about learning to wait on the Lord. And when we say wait, it is not sitting around. It's not inactive. It's active waiting, which means this, you know, conversation with the Lord has to happen. And I feel like the other thing is that some of you out there need to hear this. I was not even able to ask the Lord to bring my husband. Hear that again. I couldn't ask him for a husband. Okay. He knows the desire of your heart. When you go into prayer, you don't have to ask for a husband. He knows that desire. He knows the dream.
Yes.
And the reason that I could not ask is because my focus was not pure. Whenever I was asking the Lord, my mind would always go to a specific person or a name or something like that. And instead of actually asking the Lord, trusting that he knew for me, I would be asking with someone in mind. So I'm like, give me that person, you know? And I know a lot of people probably relate to that. I'm going to just give you permission to not ask for your husband, but to rather ask for the will of God in your life, that you give yourself over, that you trust him with your heart, that you trust him with your thoughts, and that you trust him with your future. And so that's where I went. And I left out the Lord bring me a husband prayer. Okay. Some people can do that. I couldn't do that. So I just want to put that out there for whoever needs to hear that. It's okay that you can't ask that without going down the wrong road. And you can leave that out, because he's able to hear your heart's desire. He knows what you need and what you want before you ask for it. I want to bring up, let me just see one second. I'm trying to see your book on my Kindle at the same time as our screen. So this is where I'm going back and forth here, so that I can actually read what your book says. So in the heart check, whoops, I skipped back. Okay, in the heart check, Kelsey's going to present a few questions each time at the end of the discussion, whatever the chapter you're on is, and what has to do with that chapter. Give an example here of a heart check. Are you beating yourself up or wishing you were like someone else, looked different or acted differently? Do you find yourself looking for the approval of man before asking how God feels? Oh, so good. so good. This is so good, guys. This is so good. Kelsey, this is so good. And then once you go through those questions and you actually do some self-reflection, then she brings you through a already written out prayer for you. So you don't have to, it's the easy button. You don't have to worry about what will I say or how will I bring this up or whatever. Again, it's just, your book is amazing. I want to champion this for people so that they can actually start moving into this arena of relationship with Jesus and growing in that. Guys, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Kelsey. Do you have anything else you want to add on to that?
Yeah, no, just that I also love those parts of the book. I think there's some of my favorites where I really did just take time and ask God even what he would want to say to the people that are reading that, you know, to the person on the other side of that book, you know, because I'm not going to be with them, or I'm not praying with every single person that might read the book, but my prayer was for every single person that would read that book, that my heart was holding the people that would read those words and pray the prayers. So yeah,
So does this book, is this book just for you know, believers that have been walking with the Lord for a long time, or do you think somebody who doesn't know God could benefit from this book?
Definitely both. Yeah, I
was gonna bring it up.
Yeah, it was so funny because when people would ask about the book and what's your audience, I'm like, well, everyone.
Right.
I want everyone to read the book, because it really is. It starts off with just our focus and knowing God and having him being the one on the throne. And like you said, we want him to have his way. We want him to have his will, and that we would trust him with our lives. So it really is for the young, for the old, for the one that's searching to know God, and then the ones that have been walking with him, but just need a fresh reminder of who he is in those spaces of waiting. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that Kelsey and I have been in the prayer movement basically for so many years, but that is not required. And I started my website and I started all of this. This is my first interview that I'm doing with this intention, but I'm going to post another interview that I did with a girl about boundaries, because that is also super, super important, because hope comes from actually realizing that the boundary lines have fallen to you in pleasant places. And that is what the word says. And I just want to put out there that this is about encouraging us to actually get into relationship with Jesus. This is about going, hey, let's not get lost in our own thoughts. Let's not get lost in the opinions that are being spoken around us, even about our own lives, and about why. I'm sure that everyone can relate to this as well. People ask you, why aren't you married? Do they ask you that, Kelsey?
Yes.
And you're like, why are you asking me that? I mean, it's like, what's that question about? You know?
Yeah, I'm surrounded by kids right now, so it's always, well, do you have your kids? Where are your kids? I'm like, I don't have kids yet, you know, right. One day.
It's awkward, even though it's innocent, but it's just one of those things where I feel like I started my website with the intentions of a very small on-ramp to actually reading your word and getting in relationship with Jesus through conversation with him. And it is super, super simple to do that. So I'm going to list those things in the comments below. I will list the book link. You can get it at kelseyrygh.com, right? kelseyrygh.com is your official website address, or okay.
But Amazon,
I was like, I wrote it somewhere, but I don't know where it's at.
But the Amazon link is it'll do the
And
same
then
thing.
the Amazon link that I'm going to list as well is a way, but your website is a way to get in contact with you for maybe speaking events. Kelsey is booked to speak at an event. So maybe go follow her on her Facebook, and then you can find out about that when she's able to give that information. She doesn't have it yet, but she will have it. And that is an open conference that she'll be speaking at. So you'll be able to sign up for that when she is able to post about it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing I want to say is that if you want to hear more of these, I am going to work out the technical issues. So go over and subscribe to my YouTube channel to get notified about the future ones of these interviews. Okay. There's going to be lots of interviews with lots of different types of circumstances and situations that God has answered for people in their lives, and it's going to stir up hope in you. Lastly, but not least, I have a website. It's withrachel.com. I'll list that in the comments as well. And there you can get some free resources about how to start reading your word on a daily basis and have just start up conversations with God. Statistically, most people that even are Christians have not read their entire Bible. And I think that if you want to have conversations with God, you want to hear what he's saying, and you want to have interaction that you can understand, and you can know that you're hearing his voice, then we need to be rooted and grounded and anchored in his word. Okay. That is where we know this is from the Lord and this is not from the Lord. Okay. That's where you can easily discover how to rightly divide what's being said. So you don't have to live in confusion. You don't have to live in loneliness. Okay. There's hope for you for today and for the future. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Kelsey, for being willing to come on here. We're going to end now, and we will see you again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Bye.